Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Kissing Scars by Jim Shomos, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1, Platform Zero. Leo gorged on the fruits of anticipation, sweet juices dribbling into his heart. Cruising into the city, Latika's theme, the haunting romantic tune from the Slumdog Millionaire soundtrack, played on repeat in his car. Each time the opening notes of the track restarted, his inner joy floated to another level. The universe had been showering him with Indian themes. Born and bred in Melbourne, Leo hadn't been to India and had no plans to travel there. Yet recently, India kept strolling up, tapping on his shoulder, tugging on his sleeve, and Sanaya seemed destined to be his personal guide. Stop projecting, Leo. It's just a first date. But what a first date. Not only did they both love the movie, Leo and Sanaya were actually going to replicate the romantic climax of Slumdog Millionaire, where Jamal and Latika were reunited at Victoria Station in Mumbai, except they were doing it at Melbourne's Flinders Street Station. Even by his romantic standards, it was a gutsy first date. Sanaya's face could be the poster model for Indian beauty, innocence, and joy, but he'd never have predicted her agreeing to his crazy idea. Despite being a late summer night, Melbourne's unpredictable climate tossed spears of cool air through the station's giant wind tunnels. He'd worn an embossed cotton white shirt with a sheer Indian-style scarf wrapped around his neck, a colorful nod to the Indian inspiration of the night, and a gesture from Mumbai-born Sanaya. Tonight's romance forecast: a warm evening under Sanaya's sunny smile, a touch of humidity in his heart, and late showers of laughter as they settled into each other's orbit. After the 8 p.m. scheduled meeting time, every train that slinked through and every bundle of swaying dark hair in the distance raised Leo's heart rate. He waited for his beautiful Latika to flood like Platform 9 with her smile. Patience was not one of the traits that had been passed down from his humble Italian parents. Persistence, tick. Passion, tick. Patience, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. At 8:45 p.m., Leo's shoulders were almost at hip level. Sanaya had not stepped off any carriage. She had not magically appeared on the wrong platform, revealed by a slow-departing train. She did not float down the escalators behind him as a surprise. No response to his texts, no more music in his head and veins, no protection by his scarf from the internal wind chill, which had dropped below zero. Despite being 48, the age where layers of cynicism and skepticism had forged thick anti-romantic walls in most of his friends, Leo was proud of remaining a hopeful romantic, but not as he was driving home at 9:42 p.m. that night. I can't believe she didn't come. Of all the first dates he'd ever arranged, he would never have picked Sanaya as the first woman to stand him up. The only acceptable excuse: death or major illness to her, a close friend, or family. It didn't help that he was listening to love song dedications on Sun FM. The syrupy melodies and fairy tale lyrics deepened his melancholy of rejection. Some would call tuning into this radio show just after being stood up as masochistic, but love songs were usually one of Leo's comfort foods. He could never remember the announcer's name, but would recognize his voice anywhere. A voice which seamlessly drifted between celebrating a relationship, supporting someone's longing, or commiserating a breakup. A voice you wanted to hug. Leo had never been tempted to dedicate a song on his show. It was too easy, and he took pride in his creative wooing. However, he secretly wondered if a woman might one day dedicate a song to him. That would be nice. Forget it, Leo. Right now, you don't even have a woman that wants to turn up on a first date. The towering streetlights and oncoming headlights seemed to be shining spotlights on his humiliation. He dumped his Indian scarf on the back floor. The sunset colors fought for space with Leo's feelings. He couldn't believe Sanaya stood him up on the most creative and romantic rendezvous he'd ever come up with. Sanaya had flowed with the idea. Her enthusiasm bounced from her emailed commitment. Honk, honk! The car horn blasted Leo back to the road. Lights flared his rear vision mirror. Leo noticed the green traffic light and other cars already moving ahead. He eased forward, and a big luxury SUV swung into the next lane with another blast from the horn as it zoomed past. Death or major illness. No other excuse. The next traffic light turned red, and he stopped. He checked his rear view mirror, but no one was behind him. No one in the 2 lanes beside him. He flicked off the radio and scrolled down his phone music library. He needed a comfort song, a tune to take him far away from the night's disappointment. He chose the positive energy of the greatest love song ever written, hit play, and turned up the volume, sat back, and closed his eyes. The power of Angus Young's first chord on AC/DC's You Shook Me All Night Long transcended him out of his funk. It always did. The light turned green, and he accelerated onto the freeway. He'd give her a chance. Tonight had been an audacious concept for a first date, a lot of extra pressure on a romantic ritual that was already a high-anxiety initiation step. Maybe Sanaya panicked. Did he misjudge her? It wouldn't be the first time his heart had overreached. He'd give her a chance, but he wouldn't chase her. He's all for the romance of pursuit, even though the word stalker gets bandied around too quickly these days. Being rejected for a date or having a bad date is an accepted pothole on romantic road. Standing someone up on a first date without any communication is way below ground zero in dating. Well, below what he deserves. He saw flashing blue and red police car lights on the side of the freeway ahead and slowed down. He laughed as he recognized the big black SUV that had honked him earlier. The police officer seemed to be riding up a fine. That bit of karma swung back quickly. Maybe it was a sign for more important things. He'd give Sanaya a chance. One chance. Chapter 2. Platform 9. I can't believe you really waited an hour at the station. You're a dag, says Sanaya with one of her favorite bits of Aussie slang. The way Aussies made fun of friends and kept them grounded with playful words, no malice, was one of her favorite bits of local culture. Do you think I write poems like that to everyone I meet? Plus, your confirmation was effusive, said Leo, his tenderness oozing out of her phone's speaker. I was being sarcastic. Speaking in her truth with her go-to goddess Lakshmi, she was bored with men's predictable attempts to get her attention. Cheap high school lines always focused on her physical features. Leo's romanticism sprinkled Kashmiri chili powder in her veins. At 28, with 7 years in Melbourne finding herself, Sanaya had fallen in love with the city, but no one had made it through the front gate of her heart. She couldn't believe, not for 1 second, a guy would really want to meet her on the train platform like the beautiful moment in Slumdog Millionaire. That just didn't happen in real life. You on a train in a tunnel? I think we lost signal, said Leo. You're just using train analogies to make me feel guilty. Guilt is wasted on anything that doesn't make your toes curl. She exploded with laughter. Uncontrollable, nervous as a teenage laughter. Embarrassing, yet she didn't want it to stop. She uncurled her legs from the kitchen chair and leaned on her thighs to get some control, taking maybe an hour to rein it in. Embarrassing. Your laughter could pollinate flowers, said Leo. She stopped breathing, straightened up and pushed her chair back so he couldn't hear the pounding in her heart through the phone on the table. Forced herself to breathe. It's just words, Sanaya. Yes, it was the single most beautiful thing anyone has said to me, but just words. Her mom's mantra crashed her inner party. Words are petals, pretty, but they fall away, shrivel, and die. Love is the work that keeps your garden alive, and love is action, every day, every choice, and every moment. I'm sorry about last night, Leo. I really am. I'll forgive you this time. Don't push it, dude. You either forgive or you don't. That's the second time this year forgiveness has been served to me with Indian spices. She stopped twirling her hair, scratched at the sudden itch burning her upper arm. Indian women are your latest novelty things? No. Shantaram, the book, the opening paragraphs have this powerful message about forgiveness. Have you read it? No. Shantaram was inspired by the true story of a Melbourne man who escaped prison all the way to Mumbai and lived an almost unbelievable life between helping people in the slums by day and hustling with the Mumbai Mafia at night. A book about a crook? Sounds like a subliminal warning. Leo's uninhibited laughter bounced out of her phone, not one cynical molecule. By the time he settled, she could feel her smile from one elephant ear to the other. You're funny. Can't wait for our first date, said Leo. You haven't forgiven me properly yet. Okay, I unconditionally forgive your cheeky soul. Ha! There's only one cheeky soul in this call. But I'm really out of cheekiness. I don't know how to top last night's attempt at a first date. You don't have to. Leave it to me. Okay. Surprise me. Ciao, Sanaya. Ciao, Leo. She studied the 3 pictures featured on the lounge room wall. A classic studio portrait with her in the middle wearing a traditional sari, her mother on one side with a matching sari and long dark hair, her dad on the other side in a light blue suit and a shiny bald head. Another was with her cousin and friends amongst a huge crowd, all of them drenched in colors during the Holy Festival. She missed her cousin Ajala, the closest thing she had to a Sebastosti, but not as much as she expected. Being an only child, it suited her. Family and friends are fun in small doses. The central photo featured Sanaya in a cap and gown at her graduation from Melbourne University for her psychology degree. She didn't like the way the cap pushed her ears out, making them more elephant-like than they already were. Her parents beamed with pride, which didn't last long after she told them she wouldn't be pursuing her master's degree in psychology, that she'd chosen a degree in digital media at RMIT instead. Distance is good. She loved her parents, no question, yet no matter how modern they were by Mumbai standards, their culture constrained them, strained her relationship with them. She'd never felt relaxed talking to a guy over there. 1,000,000 people could overhear any conversation, and her mother seemed to know all of them. The first time she witnessed Leo's intensity and humor when he spoke at a digital media seminar, his passion physically filled the room. Sitting in the front row at a later seminar, his huge brown eyes sparkled with the energy of a 21-year-old. They even made the gray flecks through his dark hair look more like fashion than aging. His romantic side, since they connected through a surprise. Sweet surprise or thinly veiled lure. She'd honor his crazy idea to meet at the station, but that's all. She'd treat the first date as research for an assignment. That's all. He was a handy contact for her master's degree in digital media and the career path percolating in the back of her mind. Sanaya dived into her deleted emails and reread the 4-line poem Leo had sent earlier that week. Enough flirting with time. Let's set this train on the line. 8 p.m. this Friday is where we'll find through the clocks on Platform 9. She felt so silly thinking it was just a poem. How many guys on the planet think like this, let alone act like this? Maybe it is just an act. No, he really did it. He waited an hour in the cold. For me. Sitting at her barely 4-seater wooden dining table, crammed into the corner of the apartment, she stared at the laptop screen. She clicked onto the first poem Leo sent her via Facebook a few weeks ago. He said it was inspired by her profile photo where she was holding a bright red apple to the camera, her twilight moment with a feel-good spin. Apple smile. Tender bite from a ripe apple creates the sweetest smile, fallen far from her tree. Tentative steps in a foreign garden, suppressing a festival of emotions. Her seed needs a sensitive touch. The season for harvest celebrations just a moon or 2 away. Sanaya let her eyes slow dance with the words for a few minutes, then copied both poems into a new page and saved it under a file she named Leo Stuff. She scrunched up her legs into her chest, bare feet on the worn fabric seat, stretched her long red t-shirt over her creamy satin PJs, and wrapped her arms around her shins. Her imagination swirled with words, flirted with lines. Her poetic ramblings usually meandered down lanes she hadn't planned or understood. She'd never written for a purpose, let alone a romantic path. She unscrunched her legs, leaned forward, and stared at the flashing cursor. All the words and lines scurried out of her brain. Just her and the passive-aggressive cursor. The cursor curse could be a title. Stupid. As romantic as a Stephen King novel. Stupid. She pushed back her chair, picked up the empty mug, and walked away. Later, she'd either be inspired or just write in simple English. Writing poems for a purpose isn't her thing. It isn't poetry, and who is she kidding anyway? She's no poet. In her tiny kitchen, the words flooded back in. She dropped the cup in the sink and ran to her laptop and brought it to the couch. Words seemed to dive straight from her head onto the page, her fingers barely keeping up. She stared at the finished poem within the email. She'd typed it on her laptop, but she didn't recognize it. Nothing like the usual esoteric nonsense scattered around her journal. She hit send and shut her computer. Too bad if he doesn't like it.